The wheel of time turns,
and ages come and pass.
leaving memories that become legend.
Legend fades to myth,
And even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age,
called the third age by some,
an age yet to come,
an age long past.
a wind rose in the mountains of mist.
The wind was not the beginning
There are neither beginnings nor endings,
to the turning of the wheel of time,
but it was a beginning.
Hey, Ben here real quick, and I just wanted to go over a few little updates that's happening with our channel, Another Turning. So, as our family is growing, so are me and Jesse, and we're learning a little bit more of ourselves and how the creative process is working. Most of our episodes we are finding are kind of reaching the 40 to an hour long spot, and as with that, we are not finding that it's conducive to put in a lot of imagery that fits with what we're talking about, and neither of us are really in the mood to show ourselves on camera for that long a period of time. We're in two different places, and putting those videos together would be really difficult for us because we're still learning how to do this. So our plan is we are putting together a Podbean account, and we're going to upload our audio for our main series of episodes for Another Turning as a podcast. That doesn't mean they're not going to be on YouTube also. We are still going to upload them to YouTube, and we are also going to continue with the other content we have started to put up, our book reviews specifically. Just wanted to put that out to everybody, and if you have an opinion about that, let us know. And because we're really bad about doing it at the end of our episodes, hey, if you have anything you want to say to us, let us know how we're doing. Leave a comment on the video, or you could always reach us at PodAnother on Twitter, and that is all in the description of our videos.
Hello, and welcome to the next episode in Another Turning, where we will be discussing Winter Dragon.
Yeah, this is the 2 a.m. aired pilot made by the Ready Eagle Entertainment and aired on FXX at like 2 in the morning.
So me and Jesse have both seen it before, but we have literally just sat down and watched it again together. We talked during it, and we could have recorded during it, but since we've seen it before, we didn't have any surprising reactions. There was just a little bit of discussion, and we want to share that with you.
So we came up with 9 categories to rate this show on, and we'll go through and discuss them.
Through discussion, we kind of decided, it'd be interesting to give it ratings for different aspects of a TV show and give it ratings out of 10. 9 categories. And starting with our actors, we have 2 kind of things that fall into what they would be doing. First, their overall acting, and we decided to split this between Shamael and Luz Theron because they're different enough that we thought they both deserved their own rating. Starting with Luz Theron, we agreed on a 7 out of 10. And
yeah, he did pretty well most of the way through. I actually liked his performance. I think he did a good job of the whole confusion that was going on. My issue was he kind of lost it for me after Ishamael cleared him of his madness, and that's where he started losing me. And I'm not really sure if this is an issue of him or the writing and directing, but to throw it into him, that kind of brought it down for me, was that end.
Yeah, towards the end of it, it was, I'd say it's partially was the written, what was given to him, but, and of course, because it was written the way it was, he doesn't have that, insane snapping, killing himself, if you're not familiar with it. It's the prologue from, the first book. Instead, they go more of, a depressive route, and he does not pull off giving up hope and deciding to end it all very well. Also, in general, a lot of his physicalities could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could have been a little more expressive with his body rather than just his voice.
And then Shamael,
played by Billy Zane,
the famous Billy Zane that everybody talks about, not wanting in the new show. We actually agreed on a 9 out of 10 for his acting in this.
Yeah, this isn't a super uncommon opinion. Most people seem to consider him the only good thing about this pilot. So yeah, his performance was amazing. He really sold the part. He delivers some of his lines and just like I don't even know how to say, like, it was just very expressive, and you really kind of got the right feel for Jean-Mael, in my opinion.
Yeah, obviously, not a perfect 10 out of 10. There's a few things that could have been done differently, and it's not necessarily him. It could have also been script writing and things like that. But what he does well is the next category is the dialogue in general, which is both based on an opinion of how it was written as well as the delivery of the dialogue. And we went with a 7 out of 10, and that's because going with the Ishamael is just the delivery. The lines seem very similar, if not almost one for one from the book, but his delivery makes it feel more conversational.
Yeah, it very quickly could have become super cheesy and overdone and overacted, but I think the actors do a good job of reining that in and not going super over the top like they could have.
Yeah, and it was pretty good job of, if you're a reader of the books, you're like, wow, this is like straight from the book, but it still feels legitimate, and if that makes sense.
All right, moving on. We'll go on to the costumes now. This was our first real disagreement here. I thought the costumes were amazing. I gave them personally an 8 out of 10. I thought the choice to have it be a suit for Luz Theron really kind of fit the Age of Legends for me. My only real complaint was that Ishamael was wearing something different than Luz Theron, which didn't seem to fit. Like, it looked like they were from two totally different settings.
Yeah, I went personally with a 7. I think it might be partially because I can agree that going with a suit, it's an interesting choice, but it goes really against my head canon, and it might be a personal problem there. But we discussed it, and I can go with a more modern look, but I think he should be more regal, going with like your almost typical like prince outfit, that little militaristic epaulets and all that kind of concept. And I agree that Shamael, he's just wearing a black cloak over top of whatever he's wearing. I don't mind him having some kind of I'm an evil cultist kind of outfit on top of something, but reveal a little bit underneath to kind of show that he fits in the same time period as Luz there.
Mm-hmm. So similarly, we're going to go to the set design here, and we gave that a 6. It wasn't really spectacular in any way.
Yeah, I enjoy some parts of the set. It does give almost a Victorian vibe, but based on them going for a more modern looking suit choice, it kind of feels a little disconnected.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go with a modern looking outfit, it might be better to go with, maybe even if it's as much as modern lighting in a Victorian home,
That
would
would
be
be
an
cool.
interesting choice.
My issue comes in if you read that prologue, the words that they use to describe how the after effects of Luz Theron's attack is things like the stone being melted and everything is deformed. And when they finally, Luz Theron isn't mad anymore and he looks around and sees the reality of it, it was just really underwhelming. It wasn't really anything interesting. It was just kind of some broken stones, and it looked,
Dirty? That's
yeah.
it. And actually talking about the melted stone is that actually brings into the special effects a little bit, because something like that would not be something you could do it with physical effects and just set design, but that'd be something you might need to use special effects to show. So we'll go into special effects for our next category, and we went with a 3 out of 10.
it's it's not good. I don't think anybody thinks it's good. We said, like, if this was aired in the 70s, we'd be impressed, but
Yeah,
for 2014, 2015, it's not good.
yeah, it's the special effects. There's not many places it's used. We get a little bit of, it's supposed to be a flashback of Luz Theron when he's mad killing everybody. And first of all, that scene in general, the flashback, I think they could have given us more, because it's just him with, it looks like static electricity lightning coming off of him
So,
with his family laying dead. And then There's
There's
some
the
fire later
yeah, the
on that,
beginning, opening, and closing of it during the voiceover parts, which I actually like the voiceover. It's a little much, but I like it. But those openings and closing, they do like a weird like CGI animated thing, and it just looks so bad.
yeah, the animated wheel they do looks very much. There's something I'm thinking of, almost like Reading Rainbow level. Like if you remember the beginning of Reading Rainbow, it's that quality.
Yeah, with like clip art fire underneath it. It's
Yeah,
bad.
the fire is very much like a free stock animation of burning fire. And the lightning is it's not horrible. It looks a little better than being, like I said, that free stock animation. But it's still
It's bad.
very poor for the time it came out.
Okay, what do we have left? Cinematography, I guess, then would be next.
Yeah, cinematography for this we're talking and I don't know the definition exactly, but specifically for us we're talking about how they use camera and camera angles, the placement of things, like all those little details of how they film it. I personally gave it a little bit of a lower score out of 4 out of 10 because I just it's very sloppy in my mind, and I'm not an expert, but it doesn't feel very good.
Yeah, and I just kind of went up a little bit to a 5. I mean, I definitely also don't think it was great. I just was a little less critical. I thought it was average. I didn't think there was anything wonderful or anything terrible about it.
See, she says average, but I mean, like, there's some that whole here's two people talking, and we're just gonna go in a circle around them with a camera. Like, in some ways that can make sense, but in this specifically, I don't think it works. And some of the transitions between like this person's talking and we're looking at them to this person's talking, and we're looking at them. It's very like clipped. It's
Yeah.
not done smooth.
Okay, and then the lighting design.
Yeah, not a lot of particular things in lighting. We went with a 6 out of 10 on this.
Yeah, it just wasn't anything special. I didn't think it was anything egregiously bad. I just also didn't think the lighting added anything to the scene.
Yeah, they made some choices to try to make the lighting, I think, look more natural, but possibly going back to that set design saying, hey, if they had modern lighting in a Victorian era thing, is you could use that lighting to show what's going on. Also, specifically, one scene stood out to me was he was walking past, I think they were supposed to be windows, but I didn't feel like he was close to an outside window, and it was a little glaring, the light coming in on him. It didn't look very smooth or anything like that.
All right, music.
Yeah, music, 6 out of a 10 on that.
Yeah, it really didn't do anything for me. For me, the last clip when Luz Theron is dying, I guess metaphorically, I don't know. It was a bad scene. The music in that scene in particular was a little jarring to me. Kind of took me out of it because it felt out of place. But other than that, it was there.
Yeah, intro and outro music didn't, in the beginning of it, the intro had a little bit of that like excitement, that build up a little bit to get you into wanting to watch it, but not very well. And afterwards, yeah, that last scene and the credits and stuff, I think it might have been the same song. I don't pay attention to music that well, but during the actual episode, I thought it was used 80% of the time well. Like it was a little bit in the background, didn't take away from the scene, but at the same time, it didn't like add anything. For me, music during certain scenes are supposed to help with like an emotional response. Like if it's supposed to be a sad scene, the music in the background, you might not consciously like pay attention to it, but it might emphasize that how I feel sad right now.
Yeah, and I just didn't think the music did anything really.
Yeah, so the last category is kind of a catch-all, originality, creativity, their interpretation, whatever you want to call this category, and we decided to give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, this was one where it was like it wasn't a clear cut like they did really well or did really poorly on this because there were things I really liked some choices they made that I enjoyed, but then there were some they made that were just awful and made me go, why?
Along with that, some of their good choices they made, it's like, hey, somebody in a planning room was like, I have an idea, let's do this, and they started but didn't go far enough with it.
Yeah. One of my favorite choices, and I talk about this a lot, is I love the choice to use dolls to represent the dead family while Luz Theron's still like insane and not really sure what's going on. I think it was just a really clever choice to do this thing where it looks kind of mundane. It's just children's toys, and then later when you figure out what's actually happening, it's kind of really dark.
Yeah, the biggest thing with me on an interpretation route is the transitions between the fact that what is Luz Darren seeing in his crazy state, everything looks fine, and reality is horrible. And they do one specific scene where he looks at his reflection and it kind of sweeps over, and then it shows all the destruction, shows what he looks like, but that's still not what he's seeing. And it feels like they could have done it better to show like in his reflection, you can see in the mirror he looks ragged, but the physical him standing there still looks normal.
Or vice versa.
And then also in the reflection you can see the destruction. And I think they should also have other subtler things. She mentioned the dolls. Is when he picks up the dolls, they should look like they're burned or something else. But his reaction to picking up the doll is it looks fine. And that goes to your acting, your script writing. Is show some little hints of things being bad. Another one is, I think at one point he like stepped over his dead wife, and I would put in like, don't show anything, just have him randomly stumble over something that looks like thin air, and then after he steps by, like show a flash of a body, or later make it clear when they show the reality.
Show things that aren't from his point of view to show the reality of what's happening. Yeah, but then even when they make these good choices, then they end with the way they ended, and it's just clearly they did not have the special effects team they needed to pull off Dragon Mount the way it should have been pulled off. But I honestly think I would have preferred a really terrible Dragon Mount scene to the choice to have him implied to commit suicide where he walks up a stairway into a bright light and then he's with his family. Like, I think I honestly would have preferred like a cartoon mountain erupting around him.
Really quick before we move on. So we averaged that out to a 7 out of 10, which still not bad. Like, I don't know how much the internet would agree with us, but I personally told my sister I would have enjoyed in a watching a B-rated movie kind of way, a whole like first season of like this quality just to laugh at. And then when Amazon picks it up and makes an amazing show, we can look back at it and laugh even more.
Yeah, no, I think an overall 7 out of 10. I mean, 70%. Actually, it's closer to like a 68, 69% if you do the math.
I think it's 69 because this is the internet.
I mean, that's a D plus. In some schools, that's a fail. So, I don't know. I think we have a higher opinion of this than the average Wheel of Time fan. Like, I think if you went out, maybe we should do that. If we went out and polled the average fan, you would get a much, much lower rating.
So expect by the time this video comes out, there has already been a poll put up, and that we have figured out what the average fan thinks about it. Overall opinion, obviously it's not great, but some of the decisions, like we thought, maybe not, since it's going to be streamed, most likely when you stream, the things are streamed online, is they drop a whole season at once, so you don't have like the traditional pilot episode that you used to have for TV shows. Older TV shows, typically a pilot was released ahead of time to gauge audiences' reactions. And choosing the prologue and doing it this way, although I would add maybe a few minutes into chapter 1, it would make a good pilot to gauge audiences' reactions. And we actually decided that if they were going to do like a reveal trailer or a teaser trailer, they could, for Amazon, they could do maybe the prologue shorter than this episode was.
Yeah, if they parsed it down to like 5 minutes, I think it would make a really good like trailer or announcement video for like a convention if they wanted to go to. I think Dragon Con would probably be the best, as much as I selfishly would rather it be Jordan Con. I think would actually be a pretty good choice to just get people interested. Of course, that's also a weird choice because you're casting at least one person that's not going to actually be in the show, but, you know, it could be good.
Yeah, looking forward to what Amazon does, and as much as I would love for them to drop, yeah, again, a teaser trailer at Jordan Con. I think a full length, like 7 or 8 minute long, like mini episode that is the prologue, similar to this but done much better, I think would actually work.
Yeah, so I think that's it for us today, and we will see you the next time the wheel turns.